Boom, boom. And we are
Nice,
live. Hey, everybody.
Hey,
And thank you to those who are in stream. Real quick, if you are watching this after the fact on YouTube or some other service, feel free. We do introductions and hellos for a couple minutes. Feel free to scrub ahead about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's when the first story starts. And right off the bat, can people hear me? Can I hear you guys? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If I press this button, success. How is everybody doing?
good.
Doing well.
We are in, and it's 6 o'clock, so we can officially start. Let me look to make sure I've got everything set up. I've got to share it real quick on Facebook. Where is Noah?
Where am I?
Mac couldn't be here today, so my co-host is going to be Sean Wellington. And
Thank you, Sean.
there we go.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
I could even move people around, right? If I'm like super careful. There we go. And Mac couldn't be here today, so my co-host is going to be Sean this way. Our feature is Payton. Impossible for me to pronounce your last name correctly. I have been misspelling it and then going to Facebook 100 times. Every time I spell your name, I spell it incorrectly. And my ability to be so wrong is absolutely incredible.
The best part about that is technically we spell it wrong. When my family came from Germany like a long, long time ago, they dropped the E for it's German, so it would be Frisinger, but it's just Frisinger here. So the irony is that, yeah, we don't even spell it right, and everybody gets it wrong too. So it's not just you.
So the answer is Frisinger.
Frisinger, yes.
Frisinger.
French
Okay.
fry and a singer, yeah.
What is the most ridiculous that you've ever gotten?
Fry Slinger was pretty funny, but I mean, we get Frisinger. I mean, they're all pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was doing some like ones that I was like, I've written it a million times, and I was like, why do I think she's a Friesenberg?
You just go ahead and put that in.
Friesenberg?
Sounds German enough, right?
Right. We're close. How do I get? There we go. That's the button I'm looking for. Hello, everybody. Okay, so welcome to Workshop, where we go around telling stories, and it's a very iterative process. We tell the story, we do a little bit of feedback, and then we tell the story again. We are a 501c3. We are under the umbrella group Storyluck, and we're gonna tell some stories and work on some stuff. But first and foremost, we are going to do some get to know you introductions. Every day we start with a get to know you question. Sean is going to bring us this question today.
The question that I'm bringing to you today revolves around singing, I believe. Am I correct, Dan?
Yeah. Unless you've changed it, which you're more than welcome to if you've thought up a new one.
No, the question of this day is, when is the last time you or someone that you know woke up singing? And then there's part two to it. Do you have any stories about someone singing to themselves or in public? How'd I do?
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks. I'd rather answer that last because that's a hard question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can go.
Okay.
Okay. So my brother Christopher used to wake up singing every day to himself. And one of his favorite songs was Raindrops Keep Falling On, but he changed it to Feet. And he would ride his tricycle around the circular subdivision singing Raindrops Keep Falling on My Feet in his bare feet as he's riding his tricycle.
That's great. I'm gonna throw it to Noah.
I don't believe this is a thing. I think that was a made-up story, Susan.
It's not. And the guy who sings it just died in May.
I did know that, so I can tell fact from fiction. I just don't think anyone wakes up singing. Who is that happy? Out yourself.
Chris Boyd.
I love to sing, but also I don't know the words to any songs or the melodies really. And I basically stopped listening to music in my late 20s. So it's very interesting hanging around me when I'm in a good mood. Various snippets strung together.
That's great. I'll do Shweta, and then we'll go to Payton.
Those who know me know I spend quite some time alone, and thus, and when I say in time alone, I mean I am not with people, but there are people around me. And I usually have headphones in, and I'm listening to music, and I'm usually singing the music out loud. Like, I have done many a guitar solo on the L train in New York City. No apologies. Yeah, I mean, like any good song, I have to get down to it. It's just a thing, and getting down to it also requires vocal stylings, to which I don't really have much style, but they're included.
Oh gosh, I never woke up singing. My grandma, though, my great grandma, used to stay home with me when I was a kid, and her favorite way to wake me up if I had slept in for too long is that she had one of those little animatronic chickens that would sing a song. Those little stuffed animals everyone used to be obsessed with that dances, and it would do the chicken dance. So she would come in and sing the chicken dance bright and early in the morning to wake me up, because she was very much a morning person, and I was very much not. You're not the only person that has the most frustrating thing in the world is to hear the chicken dance.
The chicken dance right in the morning.
Yeah,
That's
especially
great.
someone that's so excited to be dancing to it too.
My partner sings me awake on the weekends. He takes pleasure in finding annoying songs, very similar to the chicken dance thing. I had one, but I'm gonna change it now. This one time I was singing the hymns at church, just along with everyone, and this woman turned around and she said, "We're in church." And she made her opinion of my vocal stylings known.
Oh wow!
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
I've been yeah. So it was in the last few months that I had been doing what a lot of people do. I drive in my car and I play music, and I love it. I do it all the time. Some kind of here and there a podcast, here and there NPR or sports radio, but music. And I get down in my car. And then not long ago, like in the last few weeks, I was having a hard time waking up, and I was in a cranky mood, and I was trying to like do things to feel better. And it took me years to figure this out. And it just happened the last few weeks. So this question truly is like good timing. I thought, if I love singing music in my car, maybe if I just put the same music on in my home, then I would feel equally good. So I did a little experiment, and I'm going to share with you the 3 songs on the top of this particular playlist.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And and I will be judged for this, and I bring it. It's fine.
We can. Are you actually playing them?
I don't know how to feed that through. I could if you want, but it'll take a while.
No. I'll
probably screw up the names. Number 1 by far right now is "Levitating" by Dua Lipa.
Okay.
I can't get enough of this song. I'll do it like 10 to 12 times in the morning, and I'm in a very good mood, at least for a little bit. Then number 2 on the list is "Rude" by Magic. You know that song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what? Is it great music? Probably not. Do I feel better afterwards? Fuck yeah, I do. And then of course, "I'm Coming Out" by Diana Ross. I mean,
Yeah.
And then and I just figured this out, and it took me years. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll play those, and then I feel a little bit better. Done.
That's great.
It's just so easy.
Yeah. I don't know the Levitating one, but the others are very upbeat songs.
Can you hear it?
A little bit. Is that the Levitating?
So you're getting a good mood.
Yeah, it's already working. It's already working. All right. If we play more than 15 seconds, the bots will flag us.
Yeah. How was it?
That was great.
Feel great
Thank
right
you so
now.
much.
Feel so good.
Yeah.
For at least like 30 more seconds, I'll be in a good mood.
I feel like I know everybody better. Okay. So the rundown is we're gonna start straight away with Payton. We will listen delightedly to her story, and then we will give her some constructive feedback. And who is on deck for explaining how constructive feedback works? All friends here, and that's Noah.
All right, so we're gonna provide feedback, and it may sound a little harsh if you're just tuning in or you're not familiar, but it's always we're critiquing the work and not the person, not the teller. It's to help the story get better and not to tear anyone down. We're all friends here. We're here for this purpose. So if you're getting worried that feelings are getting hurt, be assured that we all love each other, and that's not what's going on.
That is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I will add, the teller always has full control over everything. If they don't want to tell the story again, they don't have to. If they don't like any of the things that we're saying, they're always going to know the story and what's right for it way better than we will. And it's about a sounding board and a communication, and they can walk away with this and say, that wasn't good, or this was good, and I'm going to use that. And it takes multiple rewrites before you find out what the right thing is. It's the conversation that helps you get there. But ultimately, the teller is the one who decides. And then Sonic said he just got here. You have missed nothing, and we're about to start the first story. Are you ready, Payton?
As I will ever be, I assume.
Awesome.
So I'll be honest, I'll give a little prequel. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I have the square right now, so I guess I can. I met them, Dan and Noah, through doing comedy class, and I've been I've put myself in trying to be in this box of doing comedy, but knowing I like to tell stories, and then kept getting into storytelling within the comedy genre. Was trying to figure out what I needed to do and what funny thing I want to do, and then realized I just need to tell the story that I need to tell. So it's been a weird couple of years, in case anyone not been paying attention or anything. And mental health has become super prominent. I like to say that I was into mental health before it was cool. When all my friends, I'm 24, and when all my friends, about 19, went off to college, I came back home and found out that I had the trifecta of mental illnesses, and was in therapy. While they were all getting degrees, I was going to therapy weekly, which at the time I thought was bad, made me wrong. I was falling behind. I had myself on such a comparison to everybody else around me that it only made the problems worse. Found out that I was ADD, which trickles into anxiety, which can cause depression. Untreated ADD makes the anxiety worse. Untreated anxiety leads to depression to attack the ADD. And I had been taught that, or just been around, and it was like everybody else, the stigma around it was heavy between therapy and having a mental illness. When I was actually first confronted about having ADD, it was my mother, who does not like to be wrong and is very blunt. And I love her very much. I hope she's not watching right now. She stopped me midday one time and said, "Do you think you're ADD?" Just when I was in the middle of doing a task, just stopped me. And I said, I said, nope. No, I don't think I'm ADD. Very defensive, because in school I've been taught that was people that were too much, and they were out there and they got in trouble, and went through the whole process of finding out that I did in fact have these issues. So I'd been in New York and had come home and found all that out because I had quit eating and was crying. And those are two things that before a couple of years ago, I didn't do much skipping meals or crying. So my family was alarmed, and had a lot of feelings of derealization. I had no sense of direction. And I opened up to therapy. I opened up to being allowed to take medication, feeling like that was okay. It was a safe place. And then, because I am who I am, I felt like I could talk about it with anybody, which apparently is scary to some people. But the coolest thing I've ever found from it is that it can push some people away. But some of the greatest and biggest connections I have made are from being honest and vulnerable about the fact that I have suffered with those things. I think, I don't know if you've ever been around, I don't know, maybe it's just my generation thing. Other dudes, this is going to take such a weird spin. There's a lot of dudes that have this notion that girls don't shit, that they don't want to think about it, that girls don't fart. That doesn't happen. And I swear I have a point, I'm not just going to talk about shit, but that's kind of, I feel like, this societal thing that's going on, and it's getting a lot better now, was that we don't have shit. We don't have shit, and we don't shit, and because that's not cute, that's not pretty. We've got to all put on, especially with social media, this facade of everything. Everything's cute, and we don't do anything behind closed doors that could be considered disgusting, or that's real, or is part of life. And I think those things are important, not literally shitting, but the things that are difficult. The more I got to open up about, quote unquote, my shit, people, it prepared me for a really difficult time in my life. I think I wouldn't have been prepared for if I wasn't willing to be open about my shit with other people and go seek therapy and go seek help. My dad ended up having a brain tumor. We found out a couple years ago. He's, without a doubt, was my best friend in the entire world. And I found out he had a brain tumor. And I was in the middle of this, finding all this stuff out and trying to figure out where I belonged in life. And do I need to go back to college? Do I want to act? What do I want to do anymore? And found out I was right where I needed to be. I got to spend a lot of time with him. I was essentially his caretaker right up till the bitter end. I had to go through some really tough stuff. Had to be there for the very end, had to be the one to go get a nurse to say we needed someone to pronounce him. So a lot of heavy, hard stuff, but if I wouldn't have been willing to be open and have these engagements with others that brought me to feel so comfortable in that situation, to go seek help and to feel like what I was going through was real and people were willing to listen and felt comforted. I think what I went through in the last couple of years would have been detrimental for sure. I wouldn't have been prepared the way I am. And so I might not have a degree and I may not have the most glamorous job or anything else, but I'm here and I shit. So that is it.
That's great. That clocked in at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, right off the bat, the opening question that we like to do is just tell us a little bit, how did that feel telling that story? Are there things that you noticed, specific or just general? What was it like?
I definitely could do, I was doing the uhs. I'm very overly aware of the noises and the tics I do when I get nervous or uncomfortable. So I know I was doing uhs and pauses. Didn't flow as well as I want it to. The problem is now it is in workshop mode. So I'm trying to figure out how to take all these pieces that I like about it and the things I want to tell without getting too preachy, but make it connect. And it's also really tough because I'm used to telling things that are just funny. So that's easy to tell. This is difficult and deeply personal. So
Yeah.
And I know it needs to be told, so it's harder to get out completely without wanting to, veer off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that feels very invincible when you're doing comedy. You're in superhero mode, you're in character.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw this away for a second. So that's an interesting distinction that you pull out. I'm going to throw the question out to other people. Did you guys notice this thing? Did it feel workshoppy to you?
Did the piece feel workshoppy, or the fact that there were some?
No, the just that specific part. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna agree with the three of us. I noticed shaking their heads. That wasn't something that caught my ear, so I think it's interesting that it did for you. I'm pretty. I'm not particularly attuned to that. It is something that I do in my stories as well. And it can be fixed with practice if you don't like it, but it came off as just very natural and appropriate for this style of storytelling for me.
Mm-hmm.
So just to throw that out there for you.
No, yeah.
Tell a story I need to tell. Let me say some stuff. Boom, boom, boom. I think that there are a lot of cool places to take this. Sean has a show, the Mental Health Happy-ish Hour, would be a cool place to bring this in as you work on it further.
Yeah.
And then there's an Aaron, somebody who does Bodies of Story. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Broom, right?
Yeah, Brune, and she's another one that deals with these sorts of stories sometimes, and I can send you links after the show. Or Sean's stuff is grit storytelling, and you can throw that into the global chat.
There's no
for people
shortage
to
of
check out.
no shortage of places where if Payton wanted to continue workshopping, she could.
Yeah,
And audiences to present it to, broader or focused on mental health.
yeah.
If you want.
Let's take a look. Let me see. I had a question.
Okay.
And this might be something that I just missed, but you said I've got the trifecta. What are the three things in that trifecta?
Yeah. And I felt myself skip around that. I should probably dip into that. That's a lot of times when they told me I had anxiety at first. And then another doctor was like, no, you do have anxiety, but you also have ADD and depression. He's like, which are like a domino system. Like if the ADD remains untreated, the anxiety is heightened because you're never getting anything done. You're chasing your tail. When you're chasing your tail, can't get anything done. Rolls into this depression-like state. And if you don't take care of the first one, all around kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's interesting. I think that there's a place for that discussion in this story. You went into your dad's brain tumor.
Yeah.
And I think that that's interesting, but it feels so big that I wonder, what do you think about that being a separate story?
Yeah, I think it does, because I feel like I can't adequately tap into it well enough on this page, if that makes sense. There's a lot more depth and detail to that feels like it deserves than tapping on that and keeping moving. Unless you already know that was kind of the thing, is like I didn't know how to, like we had to have a whole series for you to know about my dad and keep going, how to tap on it, come back in. But yeah, trying to keep that, I don't know, where you have the knowledge of it, but I don't know.
And then the last thing I'm going to say before passing it on, and then maybe coming back around to ask you some questions, is just that I like this idea of making women, this idea that this joke that women don't shit,
Yeah.
which I think I have heard that is a thing.
Just hilarious.
Yeah, it's a very fun. On some level, it's very funny, and on some level, it's very revealing about society. But I think that turning that into a metaphor and sort of globalizing it, there's all sorts of things that people don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I found that very compelling, and I thought that was great.
Thank
Sonic Blaze in chat said he did notice, but he thought that it sort of made you human, the ums and ers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'll open it up. Anybody can jump in and give some comments. Things you liked or questions you had.
Things you didn't like. I'm not scared.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, Payton, great job. And you have, I don't bullshit. Anyone who knows me, I just think it takes a lot of courage to share these kinds of stories. So I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you very much.
Why, when you said earlier that, I think I heard you say the story needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And so why does the story need to be told? This is not really maybe about the story, but bigger.
Yeah.
I'm curious, not challenging you, just wanting to understand why.
No, 100%. I think that was my interest in when Dan, you told me about Story Look. The biggest connector I think we have is the stories we tell, the real life shit, not what we're putting on, the picture we're trying to paint to everybody else on any kind of social media platform or what we do, which we all do. I do too. But that real hard stuff that is a part of the human condition, that shit that inevitably happens behind closed doors, so to say, that we want to keep locked up, but really locking that up, I feel like, is what keeps us from getting to make these deep personal connections. The story I need to tell is my own. So maybe someone else feels like it's okay to have help, like it's not wrong if you feel like you got something a little different about you. It's been my greatest weakness and my greatest superpower, I say. But yeah, being vulnerable is, I just think is a strength more than we make it look like it's a weakness. Sure.
When you were crafting that or telling that, were there parts of it, maybe one, maybe several, that if we like isolated it, you'd say this is really what it's about? Like, the other stuff matters, but this is the real heart of it. And it's not loaded. Like I'm not waiting for you to say something and say, no, actually that's where it is. I don't know. I heard a lot of interesting things, but is there one part of it that you think, no, that's the story? No,
you're good. Yes and no. It's almost like while trying to make a point, again, probably the ADD in me, but it's these multiple ideas and things I felt like I could intertwine and it were kind of coming up. So I could definitely see where maybe isolating one could probably make it a little bit better. Instead, I was like trying to get all of it into one thing, and I think maybe I wanted to make the point. So if that is distracting from it, I would definitely like to rather isolate.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use the word distracting. I just made me think there might be one or two moments that are, what I suppose the word that comes to mind is like best illustrate what was going on, because it's such a challenging task, particularly with these kinds of stories, to try to communicate it in a way where the person might get it. Right. It's just so hard. So just something to think about, what components maybe you could take and spend a little more time in. And I know if you're going to do your story again here, you don't have a lot of time. So this is another really big challenge. Right. And I'd be curious, what the others here think of the parts of the stories that resonated most with them. Maybe we could talk about that. I don't know.
There was one thing that I thought was interesting. A lot of times when people tell these stories, they talk about how as soon as I started talking about it, it released for me. And, but you gave them what I think is a more realistic thing. You're like, some people were pushed away. Some people didn't want to talk about it. And that's something that And then you were like, but it's still worth it because the good things that came were better than this. And that was something that resonated with me. I'm going to throw it to Noah and then Shweta.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing this story. It definitely resonated with me. I left college after a quarter way back in the day, and part of it was definitely sort of mental health stuff, although I did not go to a therapist. I had to work it out on my own, and I felt like, that's the slow way to do it. And I think part of it is the stigma about that. You don't want to be seen as someone who needs help from the outside. So I'm very grateful for you to tell that story, and I think you're right. It is important. We do need to talk about being vulnerable. So I was interested, leaving college seems like a big thing, and some of the language, you talked about feeling like you're falling behind. I would have been interested in hearing more about that feeling and that transition, and just sort of what was going on in your life, and maybe even talking about how you felt you were perceived, because the being vulnerable, right? It opens you up to other people's judgment. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what interested me the most of the story.
Thank you.
Hi, Payton. Thank you for sharing. I think, I can really feel it. There's a lot of what you said. And I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Sean and Noah said, in the sense that there were a lot of parts. And so what I heard was your friends were going to college and you were coming home. And I know that. I know that well because I took a year off from school also for mental health reasons and physical health reasons. And I remember coming back to my senior year and all my friends had graduated. So I was at school, and it was supposedly brand new, but I knew where I was at. So you have that story. Then you have the story of your mom, God bless her, but her just pointing out to you, are you ADD? How did that feel? When your mom said something like that to you, what did it feel like to go to your first therapy session? What were those small, why is the shitting metaphor or analogy, why is that important to you? Did a guy tell you that oh my God, Payton, you shit? So I think there's so many parts, and what's so great about telling stories is that you don't have to give everybody the solution right away. It's not about this is what happened to me and this is how I persevered. It could be this is what happened to me and this is what it felt like in this moment. And then this next thing happened to me and this is how I felt there. And creating a series for yourself so you're not so worried about connecting everything, because there is a natural connection. You are the connection. Payton's life story is the connection. So maybe taking time and sitting with all of those things that you're trying to connect, and sit with one, build it out as much as you want. Throw words on paper, voice memos, whatever you want to do, and do that for each of those sections. Because I think you have much more of a novel than just a story in what you said. And the novel is made up of much smaller stories, but really pointed at that. So yeah, I think, it just finding the ones that may not feel like I was the hero, I persevered, they're just as important, and they need to be told just as much because not enough people hear stories like that. So yeah, I think what you have to share is beautiful, and just giving some time to really just build out and bring color to it for yourself first. What were the emotions I was feeling? How is this a 3D experience? And then putting that on paper and sharing. has so much potential.
Thank you. That helps a lot, actually.
Susan.
Hey, Payton, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm ADD too, so I know some of your feelings, and it's nice that you're being willing to be vulnerable and say it and just like be out there, because it is sometimes something that you almost try to hide, because you're trying to like make it in this world, and the world wants you to be productive and on time, and it's hard. I know. I know. So thank you for sharing your story. That was really nice. I do appreciate it. The only thing I think, and I think everybody's kind of went through it, is like maybe just a little bit more detailed scenes. I think all the parts are there that, I followed your story fine. I was interested. I really liked it. Um, but it is nice just to have like a scene, and I don't know which scene to pick, like if it's your scene with your dad, or your scene about college, or enhancing the scene when your mom's like, are you ADD? Like I don't know. But I would think like maybe just think about which one resonates most with you, or maybe not any of those, just to kind of beef up in the story might be nice. But I've totally liked the story. I totally followed it from the beginning to the end. And I thought it was a great story. So thank you for sharing.
Where it felt like kind of like chapter headings, like from what Phoebe said, it feels like kind of chapter headings that you never get all the way into. Like you just read them, like, so it makes sense kind of, but you're not getting the details, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. I would like you to talk about more, is that an avenue, the question of so one of the things that I was thinking about screwing around with structure is this idea of people don't shit. I think if you like that, it comes in at the middle, and it kind of came in at the end. And I think it's funny, and I think it would work as a three-peat. So I wonder if it would start there. You could have, and just like have them be strong, lines where it's just hit once, right? And then we see it three times, so it starts in the same place that it ends, kind of. So Shweta asked, is there a scene there? Is there one that comes to your mind where that idea first entered into you, like, this is a thing girls don't do, or a meme you saw, or anything of that nature?
It was actually just being with but I was like the third wheel friend strongly for a long time, because it just was. And I remember them all hanging out and like being like, oh no, like I would never let like him like know that. And like the dudes feeling very strongly about like, why someone said something about going to the bathroom. I think we're at a bowling alley. And I was like, oh, it could be a while. I was like, no, that doesn't happen. And I was like, pardon me. And I was like, no, she doesn't do that. Like, I don't want to think about her that way. I was like, you've seen her eat. She's a human. Like, it's got to like work its way. She's human. She will shit eventually, whether you want to think about that or not. Like the hottest girl like just shits. Like it's okay. Like we're still human. But it is this weird kind of metaphor for the fact that we like have this instinct to not want to. I mean, I know shitting is actually gross. Like that is overly personal. But the metaphor of like if it's not pretty and like painted well, we don't necessarily want to think about that. I mean, it was very sure he did not want to think about it, look at it, know that she ever did that. Just didn't want to acknowledge it. I was like, it was a weird metaphor that kind of stuck in my head.
Yeah, No, I think that that's a great scene. That totally makes sense to me. And I could imagine that being where this starts. And just painting a little bit to give us the setting of place, and then from there you can kind of free associate and go into this other stuff about, you know, the metaphor about what it really is for you. What are things in here? Some questions, two sides. ADD, anxiety, depression, talking about how those things swap into each other. I had this is a tangent, but I had a moment once where I asked somebody, I was like, have you been diagnosed? Are you like ADD or something like that? And they just went crazy on me. They were very upset. They were like, what? You're accusing me of being a crazy person? And I was like, I didn't think that there was any stigma on being ADD. I just thought, like, we all think we're a little bit.
Right.
But
It's
it was
like
not
the
the case.
therapy comment though too. Like everyone used to say, I think it was fine, and then I'd go to therapy. I'd be like, yeah, everybody needs a lot of people need therapy. I go to therapy for people in my life that don't go to therapy, you know. But yeah, it's that thing, and it was weird. I didn't like that it brought that up in me when my mom like stopped me, and she didn't mean it in a mean way. I just kind of blurted it out, and it wasn't even meant to be mean, but it came across so harsh as this like, I'm trying to figure out how to. It was underlying. I'm trying to figure out how to help you, but it came across as like, you got some kind of problem. There's something, you know, and that was, I think, where the immediate, you know, frustration, like, no, that's not what's going on here thing. I feel like that.
I think that scene is also one of the more clear ones that have a setting. And I like saw you sitting, and I don't know how true this is, but I saw you sitting sort of eating and your mom walking around. And then she was like, wait a second, do you think you're, and you're no. Yeah, I wonder what it would be like to go deeper into those emotions and try to describe that. What is that, you know, and not to put words in your mouth, but what is that like? What are the feelings that happen inside your body for defensiveness? Where does your mind go in those places? Is it something that you had thought about before?
No, not specifically ADD. My sister had brought up a girl she knew with anxiety disorder, and so of course I Googled that like any person does, and then you go down that rabbit hole. And I had been like, no, that's definitely it. Not knowing that they can intertwine the way they do until after my first visit with the doctor was like, no, she definitely just has anxiety disorder. And my mom was like, that can't be it. Like, you should see her backpack. And I was like, that's a weird reason to think of it. But my mom and sister are very type A, and I'm very not. And so that was also kind of the thing that was really throwing her off too. And that I could go from like here to here to here to here. And they're very, you finish something. And so that was kind of the defining. So at the doctor, they originally said no. And then I went to a therapist, was talking to her, and then ended up with a specialist doing an evaluation. I remember trying to sit still the whole time, like being so focused. Like I remember being like, I'm not gonna be fucking ADD. Like I was like very sure, like I could sit there and like convince him, like no. Like, and he literally gets to the end, does not look up, and is like, yeah, you're definitely ADD, but then divulges into like how there is the anxiety and the depression part. But I remember being so frustrated. Like I sat here and I like, there's no way. Like I was so focused on what I was saying. I was crossing my legs, trying to stay still. And he was like very convinced, like easily convinced that like, yes.
Yeah.
So at the risk of sounding slightly condescending, and please, what you just did there was so compelling. You're just talking about what happened, right? You're loose. You took us into a scene, right? This moment with the therapist. You did a little, that's, I think, what I think I don't know if I can speak for everybody, a little more of those moments, slow it down,
Yeah.
get into that moment. That is so satisfying.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The challenge is, all right, which moments do you choose, right? That gets hard.
Right.
Right.
But I just was like, oh my God, I want more of that. Payton, more of that, more. I want more, more. Great. That's great.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I agree, because when I heard that, it's like I was there. I was feeling it. Like I had that emotion of like, you're not going to tell me what's wrong with me. I know what's up with me. You don't need to tell me. And I think that's a beautiful, I mean, the way you did it was, I clicked right in. Like I was there. I like was sitting next to you. And I was focusing too, like, no, you can't tell me anything. But it's just that too, because that's what, and then they tell you that you still have it, even though you did all of the things. You did all the things you knew that somebody without ADD could do. And you still, so how'd that make you feel when they told you, hey, Payton, you have ADD? And you're like, but I fucking did all of this stuff. I sat still. I read the lines. I pointed at the right pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that, like that's, like, is it a heroic moment where you've just beat ADD? No, but you just have to go in and feel the things that you didn't want to feel. And it made us feel those things with you. And that's the beauty about sharing these personal stories, is that I may not have ADD, but I know what it feels like when I want something really bad and I don't want to be considered something really bad, but I still get it. And so, yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. I think it was someone, I can't remember who it is. There's a singer that says, it's crazy because every night I go to these concerts and I sing a song and people sing it back to me for 100 different reasons in 100 different ways. And I think that's kind of, yes, I know. And I don't, and you make a heroic thing. I don't think it's solved. Like, I want to make sure that's conceived well too, is like, it helped me handle my debts of wealth. It just kept me from, I think, being 6 feet under as well. I'm not like conquering mental health these days. Like it's a ongoing whole thing. I want to make sure I make that clear. But yeah, no, the clicking in, even if you don't have ADD, but the emotions it clicks into that you can connect to other things, for sure. Those are the great connectors, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, and even you were just talking about your mom and your sister, like as much as you love them, as much as their family, how did it feel when, when you're a little bit, you're different. They're type A and you have a messy backpack. They make their bed and you don't care, And so even that too, just like within your own family, how did it feel? I think that's the thing, is just like really falling into how did I feel? Because that feeling, that's what transfers.
Right. For sure.
I'm going to put Susan on the spot real quick and have you unmute yourself to tell your hilarious trying to get diagnosed / not diagnosed with ADHD story. She's like, I don't remember filling out the form.
When I filled out the form. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I got diagnosed a couple of times, but so the time Danny wants me to tell the story was I went to the doctor, and I have her now actually, to get ADD medicine. And my ADD is not like, I can sit still and I can hyper focus, but it shows up in still the unmotivated, if I'm not interested at all, or the driving a car, that's scary. So anyway, I went to her and I filled out this form, and I didn't hit enough of the ADD boxes. And so she actually was like, I can't give you medicine if you don't like check. You need one more box to check. I was like, well, I need medicine. So what box is that? I will check. And I checked it and I got my medicine, which I do need. So
No, I remember reading some of the boxes and being, well, there's like a pre-thing where you sit out there and you fill it all out, and then he looks at it and like sat there and like talked to me. And I remember filling out the boxes and being like, pfft. And then there were things that there's like one that really sticks. I remember being like, no, I don't do that. And like ever since then, I think about it, I'm always like, no, I definitely do that. Like weird stuff that I would never think was connected. I'm like, yeah, I don't have a hyperactivity. That's more of an ADHD, I suppose.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think one was, do you go on like random spending splurges where you just like spend a bunch at once? And I was like, no, I'm super responsible. And kind of like kept over that because I was like, that feels hard to check. Like now I know it was like, don't want to check that one. Like, and then anytime I'll do something like that and check my and be like, yeah, maybe I've done that once or twice. So it's funny, the checking boxes. I get it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, and these might not be the end scenes, but just for a second telling, let's talk about some scenes to go into, and we'll pick 3.
Okay.
And have it be 3, and see what gets weaved into this. So I think we open up with sitting with the boy. I think that line is hilarious. The hottest girl you know, it's still going down her gullet. It travels the same circuitous path to her butthole. That is a funny image. Having that with a guy, you can exaggerate it. Like he's all bug-eyed. This is impossible. There's almost a joke there that's like, but not me. I don't do that. My shit's completely different. And then you can be like, and then go into the scene with your mom, right? Mm-hmm. And in the defensiveness, like aspect of it, if this is true, or you can just think about whether this fits or not, but it can go straight into, oh, my sister brought up anxiety, mm-hmm. right? I'm feeling defensive because I don't think I have ADHD, but I think my sister's right about anxiety. And you can take us into that scene of the WebMD rabbit hole and give us a little of specifics of, oh, I do this. Oh, I do this. And again, staying in those feelings because we want to know what you're feeling and what you're thinking and what's that like. And then a third scene can be in the doctor and maybe try to do that like, okay, you've got the trifecta and this is how the trifecta works. Discussion. And if we're trying to hit the shit thing 3 times, I think you already have that ending, which is funny. You said it's something to the effect of like, and now I've told you that this is my shit.
Yeah.
And I let people see it. This part, the talking about it, going back to like Sean's discussion of like, what's the most important thing? Like what's the heart of it? I think eventually this is just for playing around with it right now. And so maybe, and get that practice of doing scenes and stuff like that. There's a chance that the heart is off to the side somewhere and it's about this like discussion thing, though maybe you weave that in here. I don't know. I'm just like throwing that out there because I don't want that to get lost if that's the special thing, because you were hitting on that a lot in your first draft. Right. So can anyone help me? Do they have a thing where like, can we get the shit metaphor joke somewhere in the scene with the mom and the anxiety Does somebody see that clearly as a way? Dun, dun, dun.
Is it? I'm thinking about just the idea of, broadly speaking, you're not quite getting how it really is / how I really am. I don't know if this is the answer. Just spitballing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, girls shit. I'm a girl. I shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are in pain. I'm in pain. I don't know if that's the bridge, but the idea of what you see and what is not, or what you deem is not the same.
Right.
I
Or like-
shit and I have anxiety. whatever.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Right. And you can go, and that's like a going back and like sort of, you know, in that you're taking us to that moment, you can go back and say, there's so much out there that there's so much reality out there that people don't see. And I think about this boy who just doesn't think that women do these very normal things. And then would, you know, I think that, and it doesn't become, you know, it's not a joke in that point. And I think that almost makes it more robust when you get to the end for the punch. And so I talked about my shit.
I think another way you could do it, Payton,
Yep.
is, since you are a comedian, and it's, you know, it's like, I don't want to call it a facade, but it is a voice you speak in often, right? It's the same thing as girls, how gorgeous you are. It does. So I actually think you could try it this way too, where you might not use the shitting as a metaphor, but you just drop it in there, right? It's like thinking of me as a comedian with absolutely no basis to why I make funny comments, why this might be, you know, why I am in the world, is like thinking girls don't shit. So you could almost do it like that. You know, you don't have to make that your thing, but you can make the fact that, like, I'm doing so much behind closed doors for myself that you don't know, yet you think that I'm not doing any of that stuff because I'm out here telling jokes. So.
Right. No, it's actually funny to like break it down like that, because I realized that I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna tell this story, how can I still make it funny so I can keep people like connected? Because that's the immediate default connector, and that's also that little shred of shield that I get to keep left. You know, that kind of feels
Right.
And honestly, Payton, I think you should, if you want to.
right.
If you want to bring that voice in there, go for it. I mean, you can be funny and then have a realization of sorts, and then change your tone of voice. You want to come off that way first. You want to grab people in, and then you have that little spark where you're like, damn. And then the voice changes, the tone drops a little bit. Go for it.
Right.
But I think you don't have to lose it.
Okay.
Because it almost shows the audience that, like, it's hard to be vulnerable, but I'm going to make the choice to be it.
Yeah. But I also want to just say that I think that that's a good realization, and sort of to think about too, that the stuff that really drew us in were the scenes, and we're seeing the talk and the discussion and stuff like that. And so I think that that's really cool that you saw that and could sort of point that out. So just to go over it again for you, and you take this in any direction you can, but what we talked about was starting with the scene with the boy, going into your mom calling you out, going into your sister calling you out prior. Okay, jump cut. Now I'm at a therapist's office. And then you have some sort of scene there, and you end it, and this is me talking about it.
Right.
And we're gonna give you some time. You can like step away for 5-10 minutes, or you can sit with us while we discuss a really quick lesson.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Hi, everybody. So much. All right. So right off the top, I'm gonna say that Mac couldn't make it today. That's why Sean is being a big helper and coming in. Mac was also scheduled to be the second feature today, so I'm taking over that slot. And I've been working on my thing. So this lesson is something that Noah keeps asking me not to do, which is I'm going to ask people in the panel questions about stuff. And I didn't give them any warning about it. Last week, and it's totally ridiculous because I had plenty of hours in the day where I knew that Mac wasn't going to be here. So I apologize. But what do I want to start with? And let me see. This lesson is going to be all over the place. So number one, I wanted to talk. I was going to throw this thing out. All right. Sean muted himself. This is a discussion. Sean and I had an interesting discussion where it was a little bit about, let me throw her away. It was a little bit about, we have this saying at Workshop that number one, you're already great at telling stories. And number two, if you practice, you get better. And Sean was like, is this true? I have seen some storytellers who are not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit that has happened to me. And as we were having the discussion, we even got into a place where there are some outside, where even after practice, it was still hard for them to sort of create narrative that people could follow with their stories. They definitely, I think people enjoy doing it and being listened to and heard and things like that. But it does, saying you're great at it, do some disservice to those people who say, I know that I'm not. I know that's bullshit. I know that I'm not. And Sean, do you want to speak to that? And does anybody have thoughts on that subject that just pops into their head that they think, oh, this is profound. I'm going to say this to an audience.
That's awesome. Well, let me just jump in, and then I'll try not to babble much. I'll be quiet, let others go. I do think that many people are not good at this. It's very subjective. But the reason why it's important to me, particularly with certain kinds of stories, and I don't have the right words to describe what kinds of stories exactly I'm talking about, but when we hear them, we usually know them. I think there is a myth in our culture, maybe not just our culture, that if you speak your truth, everyone wants to hear it. It's not true. And what happens, and you guys can push back as hard as you want on this, it's all good. People act nice. You got to be civil. So, of course, they're going to say, yeah, good job. Very good. Great job. That was very, and I'm not here to say that they're wrong. I'm not a gatekeeper, but wow, what an opportunity that if you learned a little bit more about the craft of story, you could actually keep people's attention and maybe relate in a way. And so you miss an opportunity, and we go back and we don't remember your story. And what a damn shame for some of these stories. And nobody's telling any, maybe not nobody, but why is that such a difficult conversation to have? And Dan and I don't really agree on this, which is great. It's great. Yeah. But why is it so difficult? This is not rhetorical. To tell somebody this information. Great effort, meaningful, important story. I think if you tweaked it here and there and we talk about that and explore ways to recraft it, you'll get more people to hear it and really listen and relate. So I'll stop talking now. I feel strongly about this.
Yeah, I think that's great. And one of the quips you had in that discussion that really got to me was that you were like, in 6 minutes, I can make you better. You tell me a story for 6 minutes, I'll listen to it, and you give me 6 minutes to give you feedback, I'll make that story better.
Did I see that, man? I really do. I am kind of a jerk.
But I think that's true. I think that's, true of your friends if they listen to your stories. I think it's true of you for sure, Sean, and what we do here. And yeah, I think that there are fundamental keys
Yes.
that people who aren't engrossed in this scene are missing.
Correct.
And if you just get them, it makes you a much better communicator in all sorts of walks of life.
You arguably you could teach somebody, and I'm using the word teach sort of broadly here, right? A lot in a short period of time, a lot that can be applied. I think once you get higher and higher, it's like that plateau, right? It takes a lot more time to get a little better once you're at a certain level, maybe. But for somebody who's newer to this and isn't as familiar with this stuff, I mean, I do believe that 6 minutes, we could. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and unmute yourself and just jump in when you feel like jumping in.
I will say, am I unmuted? I am unmuted.
No, you're good. We can hear
yes. I feel like I've described myself as a bad storyteller in all humility. And I think doing this this workshop show has made me better. I think it's true. If you practice, you will get better. And also, I think we are surrounded by good stories. We don't experience a lot of quote unquote bad stories. And I think from my experience, what happens is just a disconnect, right? We want to tell something, and we hear it on this show a lot. Like, I just want to convey this feeling. I want to convey this moment. And that's usually not what people are expecting if you're telling them a story, right? There are situations when you're, communing with someone and you are sharing a feeling, and that's what people are receptive to. But a lot of times, I think more casually, we're expecting what we've seen, right? We want that 3-act story structure. There's specific things that we've learned to expect. And if you don't hit those things, people are not going to know what to do with your story. And that could be considered bad. But I think we all want to tell stories. And I think Sean is right, and you too, Dan. There are specific things that you can do that are going to elevate you, and in those circumstances, make your story more compelling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other line that I really liked, and I want to give it to you, Sean. And so I'm going to throw it to you. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah.
Can I guess first, just to make this a little more?
Yeah.
If I'm wrong here, of course, it'll be very awkward because I'm assuming this is the line. I think the line that resonated with you was that you, the understood you out there, don't think your stories matter. Was that the line?
Yeah. Keep going.
Well, the idea that if you believed that your stories mattered, now I'm getting lost. If you believe that your stories matter, I think people would, I don't know if the word's like take it more seriously, but perhaps be open to feedback so that you could, people always often say, I want to get this message across, right? I want people to leave with something. And I'm talking a little bit in circles, so I apologize. But tell me if I was close with that. Is that what you were thinking, or was I a little off?
No, that is it, and it dovetails into this, which you also said, and is that for those people who are out there who are like, my stories don't matter and feel like they're not good at it, I just want to say, why, on some level, why would you be?
Yes.
Because who taught you? There's nobody out there who is teaching how to tell stories. When we're going through school, when you have literature classes, it's not really about telling stories. It's not about telling the personal. It's not about you trying to understand the world. It's, you know, a structure that doesn't make sense. You try, you know, you don't take the experience and play with it. You create a paper. You create a thesis statement first. And that's not how it goes. You know, Payton came to us with a story. That's a story. And she had worked with it and played with it. But she wasn't there yet as to where her theme is. And even after the discussion, you know, she's not 100% there, like what the theme is. This idea that they try to teach us that we should have the theme before we have the meat of the story is crazy. It's totally crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wanted to put in another line, which is the fact that a lot of the times it's like, I want to tell a story that other people want to hear. Why do you care if they want to hear it or not?
Right.
You know, it's like, I need to tell a story because I'm trying to learn something from it. I'm trying to get something from it. What about me is evolving as I tell this story? And so I think that's a big thing is, you know, yes, my stories, people think my stories don't matter, so I'm not going to share them, whatever. Well, that's, again, thinking, who do they matter to? Do they matter to you? Because you lived through them. So if they matter to you, then they matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there shouldn't be too much weight on whether or not because people do want to hear the love stories and the happy endings and the heroic journeys and the this, and of course they do. But 99.9% of the stories in this world are not that. They don't end that way. They usually end in some sort of limbo or questioning or inquiry or deeper knowledge. So I think that's what's beautiful about storytelling. And what's beautiful about this craft is when you tell a story and you get that feedback on it, immediately that story starts to have value because somebody else listened to it and is now telling you, hey, this mattered. And because it matters, A, B, and C.
Yeah. Susan, can I unmute you? No, you muted yourself. There you go. Do you get the final word?
I get the final word. I guess I think it's both true and you can get better. So I think people tell great stories. I think people need to tell their stories. I think people need to hear the stories. And just because you're already telling a great story doesn't mean you couldn't get your story to be even better, to be an excellent story. So that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah. The difference between good and excellent is there's a big gap there. There's a big gap there. Thank you, Susan. Payton, we're going to send it back over to you. And whenever you're ready, you can tell the second version of your story. And just so you know, there might be some spots where I will just jump in and ask you to do stuff, and there might not be. And just it's not. Yeah, you're all set, and we're ready when you are.
Okay. So back when I was in high school, one of the only things you can do for fun, I guess, at that age is go bowling. There was a big group of us, and I was fifth wheeling, to say the least. I think there may have been an even bigger group than that. There's probably 12 or 13, but I was definitely the only one that was not on a date situation. And I remember a girl having to use the restroom and someone making a joke about, what if it takes longer, or something along the lines of implying that she might have to go more than pee. And the boyfriend immediately recoiled and was like, that got very minimal eye contact, would not look up, was like, that doesn't happen. She doesn't do that. We don't talk about it. I don't want to know about it. She doesn't do that. And I was like, do what exactly? Like, are you trying to tell me you think she doesn't shit. He was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Was so perturbed by the idea that his beautiful, perfect friend could possibly eat her food and fully digest it and then let it excrete into a toilet at a bowling alley or anywhere, apparently. So flash forward a few years into my life, and I'm walking through my living room, thinking I'm actually doing something productive, which didn't seem like it happened a lot at the time, carrying a basket of laundry. And my mom's on her computer, and I'm thinking she's in her own little world, and she just kind of blurts out, Payton, do you think you're ADD? Which at the time hit like a slap in the face, especially when I was on a task, which is quite the task. And I kind of was taken back and asked her, what? No, I don't think I have ADD. Like, I wasn't a bad kid, I don't think. I wasn't in trouble a lot. Because that was the notion that I had in my head, was that if you were the ADD kid, you were actively acting out and annoying. And she didn't change much of her expression and was like, I think you might be ADD. And I remember looking down and saying, no, not exactly, but my sister has brought up anxiety disorder, and I think it may be more of that, which may cause me to sometimes have trouble focusing, but we were very much stuck on that. So then I went down the WebMD spiral, much like most people do. I went from metaphor of a cough to coffin shopping really quick with the ADD. I went from thinking I didn't have a problem to thinking I may have a problem, multiple problems. So pretty soon I found myself at a therapist where I am trying desperately to fool them. Like, this isn't their full-time job. A psychiatrist, actually, psychoanalysis, who this is what he does for a living, is watches people and interviews them to see what exactly they have, not just therapy. And I'm trying to do all the things that are right. I'm trying to...
What's the office look like?
What does the office look like? Oh, God. The office is very mundane, and it's very lacks color. It's not made to be a super comfortable place. It's very serious. It's not full of fun and rainbows and all those things. And very stuffy, especially for someone who's nervous and trying to prove a point, but is afraid they might fail miserably. Felt like a hospital almost at times.
Yeah.
In the room, and I'm doing all the things you're supposed to do that make you an adult and make you seem focused from what I have decided in my head. I don't know where I thought of these things, but this is what I decided. I was keeping my legs crossed, and I was staring right at him, or at least trying to, and I was staying right on top of it. If he asked a question, I thought I was staying in the same headspace he was. And I'm thinking I'm killing it. Like, the whole time I'm thinking, like, there's no way he's going to be like, no, actually, you're a genius. You don't have anything wrong. I think I'm going to come out on the better end of this, honestly. And be like, I don't know why you're even here. I might get a job. I don't know. And without looking up from his clipboard that I heard every pin stroke on throughout the whole conversation, he goes, well, you're definitely ADD. Which again felt like a very similar slap to the one my mom gave me in the face, when you think you're proving a point so hard and you end up on the other side. And from there, I had to learn to deal with what he tells me, where I go from thinking, okay, now I'm ADD. He further explains I've got 3 mental disorders, ailments that all actually interconnect. I had ADD that, if you isn't left untreated or is not dealt with well, leads into the anxiety, which is kind of the place I was rolling in, which, when that's not handled well, rolls into depression, which I had been dabbling in pretty seriously for a while and had a lot of confusing feelings. So that's a lot to take at once, a slap in the face with a diagnosis and then being told that you not only have the one thing you thought you didn't want to have or you definitely didn't have, you now have 3 different things that they're worried about. And is now suggested that you go to talk therapy and start medication. That's heavy. At 19, when you just got back home, you're still not sure what your path is, which way to go, but you've come home from college early and that's what everyone else is doing. And all you know right now is that you're not getting up at 8 a.m. for class. You're getting up at 8 a.m. to see a psychiatrist. And you're making sure you're picking up pills, not doing any other prescription pills that matter, not fun drugs like everyone else in college. And that's all right. See, this is where I kind of want hell. This is where I kind of got stuck.
Yeah.
This is me my white flag. Whereas trying to connect the next kind of.
Yeah, I think you're there, and it's just an issue of like having some sort of landing,
right?
Of going back to that section, right, where you're like, this isn't, and this is just for this exercise, right? So your ending is just going back to that scene with the boy and tying it in there. So you're just like, I think about that boy and I think about all the people who think other human beings don't do whatever it is.
Well, okay, so I have a story, like a mini story that I kind of want to encourage. I'll tell it to you so you get it, because it kind of makes sense and it kind of makes it come full circle. Yeah,
let's hear it.
I think so. I do have a boyfriend now, which weirdly in 2020, of all things that went to shit, I somehow got a boyfriend that's mentally healthy and he's a great person. But weirdly enough, that's when I got one in the worst year ever. But we got COVID at the same time, right before Christmas. And so we got locked down together, like 3 or 4 days before Christmas. So we were by ourselves and we'd only been dating, mind you, at that point for like 3 or 4 months. And we'd been pretty close, but I mean, not locked down together during Christmas. So naturally we lost the taste and smell. That's when we knew it was bad. So I had been doing the I don't shit thing. Not that he had said that I hadn't, but I had been still playing cute of like, I'm not going to do that at his house kind of thing. Like, that's not happening like in front of him. Like, he's not going to know that it's happening. Like, I'd rather full on go home. We're not going to go there yet because we share that. There's only one bathroom in that area. And his bathroom is the one that the roommates shared at the time too. It was the only downstairs one. So I definitely wasn't using the restroom.
This is so great. I can't believe we didn't ask this question. Is there anyone you won't shit in front of? Oh my God.
Well, so when you lose your sense of taste, smell, or whatever, we start going to the bathroom, and I don't know if anybody did lose their smell, but you don't think about spraying or doing anything else in the bathroom if you can't smell it. If you can't smell it, it does not register in your head that has happened in there. You just go like, that one didn't smell. We're good. You keep moving. Mind you, I guess I'd forgotten that I couldn't smell anything at the time. So anyway, it's a few days into it, and I go out into the kitchen, and he's cleaning dishes, and he goes, "Babe, I've got my smell back." And I was like, "That's great. Holy cow, like, good for you." And he was like, without looking up his clean dishes, he goes, "Yeah, I know you shit." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "What do you mean you know I shit?" He goes, "Yeah, that's how I realized I could smell, because I had to pee and you had been in the bathroom apparently, and I know you took a shit in the bathroom because it smells like shit. And that's how I knew my senses were back." And that is 100% a true story, and we love telling that to everybody. But that's so funny.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. That is a funny story, and I look forward to you working that in.
Yeah, because I feel like, that kind of ties in, like, I let somebody know I shit, and it's been like super healthy, even though he didn't know that till later, smell it till later. But yeah, it was so funny. Just nonchalantly, he was not upset. He was not like perturbed by it. He was just like, "No, I know. Like, I know what you did in there, and like, it's all right. Like, I know you've been trying not to do that, basically." And I was like,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing these stories with us.
Yes.
That was great.
Thank you so much for you guys and all your feedback, and for being honest and open and helping me out. I already feel like I've got a way better, at least, path for this now and idea of what to do. I definitely want to be involved with you guys again. I appreciate it. This was super cool.
I threw the link into all the channels. If you want to hang out with us after, we will be hanging out in Discord. Susan threw out that she can't be here today. On theme, she has a colonoscopy tomorrow, and she has to start taking the drugs immediately after the show tonight.
Oh my!
Thank you, Susan, for waiting an extra hour till the show ends before taking the drugs. That will make you shit all night. Awesome. All right, so ta-da, I am up. I just want to say one more time, thank you so much. And I loved both versions of those. I really appreciate that you would play with it. I think a lot of cool things happened. And I just want to reiterate, it's not about the second one to be better. It's just about playing with it so that you can see the different things and how they work and the mechanics around it. And I think you did a great job. I feel like people got a lot of really good examples out of that sort of thing. And now I'm just delaying the inevitable. Fuck. What was my okay. All right. So this is a story that I've been working on for a while. But I think maybe people haven't heard me do it live in here. All right. So a few years ago, I was at this house party, and it was this moment where I'm in the living room and I'm sort of drifting away from people, and I'm going to get that space to myself where I can recalibrate what's going on at this party, and I can calibrate my moves. And I just am happy to be alone for a second. When out of the corner of my ear, I catch the host say, "Yo, Dan, pop quiz. When's the last time you cried?" And I turn to him. I know that this is a trick question, but there is no trick question. So I say, you know what? You know me. Look at me. I'm a sensitive dude. I'm the quintessential hipster type. I'm not scared of tears. And he said, yeah. Sure. But when's the last time you cried? Well, I don't know about last time, but I cry when I need to cry. So I cry once every year or two. And he says, Jennifer, when is the last time you cried? And she immediately, without missing a beat, says, I cry every day. And he starts bringing people around, and there's this sort of semicircle around me, and he's asking everybody, when was the last time you cried? How often do you cry? And people are saying things like every day, once a week, once a month. And he says, Dan here cries once or twice a year. And I say, no. I cry once every year or two. I haven't cried for like 3 years at this point. I'm saying over like the 10 years. And he just bug-eyed looks at me and says, you are an unfeeling monster. And this is in my head. And so I start asking every Yahoo and rando that I see on the street. And the answers sort of come back the same. Men will tell me they cry once a week to once a month. And women will say somewhere between every day and once a month. That's sort of the range. Oddly enough, during this expedition, my buddy down in Columbus, Ohio, Noah Firestone, is asking the same sort of question, only it's not the knife gut punch that I'm asking. It's not quite, how many times do you cry every year? It's instead, he says to me, Dan, ask this question. You will be completely amazed because everybody answers it the same way. Ask them, what do they think the average American male is allowed to cry in their lifetime? And so I start asking that. And it's amazing. The first half of the answer is always 100% the same. I asked hundreds of people, just complete random, men, women, children, and all of them said the same thing. Well, you're asking me what society thinks. This isn't what I think. I think men can cry whenever they want, but you're asking me what society thinks, right? They all said that. Always, every time they started with that. And I would say yes. And they'd say, okay. Society says that a man can cry twice in his lifetime. When his mother dies and if his children die. There was a small subset of people who would say there's the unfortunate, unlucky man who gets 3 cries. He gets to cry when his parents die, he gets to cry when his children die, and then a 3rd time when his wife dies. But all of those people would add, of course, only if he's been married to her for at least 25 years. And I just think, how do we get this into our heads? Because literally everyone said, I don't think this. Society thinks this. I think this completely opposite thing. I couldn't find anyone who said, I agree with society. Men should only cry twice in their lifetime. But everybody thought that society said that. How are we not society? Is it because we don't talk about it? Is it because we don't share stories? So I tried it. I tried crying more often. It felt performative. It did not feel cathartic. It didn't work for me. I like that my tears sort of are at these meaningful points. I cry when I think I've been treated extremely unjustly and I can't help it. I cry in deep, deep loneliness, and I cry at particularly hard breakups. And there's a 4th time that I cry, and it's just a malaise of depression that washes over me. And it's a completely cliche kind of depression. It is gray and just like a commercial. It is completely without specificity. It is just a sadness that settles in on my chest, and it comes to me as I'm walking through a Target and I'm trying to make a decision about buying fucking Frosted Flakes or Captain Crunch. And the tears will just well up. And there will be this split second where I'm embarrassed to be crying in public. And then I remember that I'm the sensitive type and that I'm not scared to cry. And I don't care what people think. And so I grab the Captain Crunch and I take it and I pay for it. And it doesn't matter to me whether the checkout girl notices that there are tears in my eyes. thank you so much.
Well, Dan, how did that feel? As you were telling that, what did you notice? What stood out to you?
In my practice, thank you, Noah. In my working on it, I wanted to get the fact that I practiced crying in at a different spot. I wanted it sort of in the middle. And I had a different sort of transition, and I don't know whether it was better or not, but I just missed it. And then I came in at 7 minutes and 50 seconds, and I had been going 9 minutes, and so I was happy about that.
Well, it was a fantastic story, Dan, and not only because my name was in it, although that really helped.
I thought for sure you'd be like, oh, you made all that up.
Not the literal
little bit.
truth, but the thematic truth was
Right.
arrived at,
Yeah.
How did you practice crying, Dan?
That is a good question. How did I practice crying? Yeah, that would be a good scene. One of the things is listening to sad music. I can get very sad listening to sad music, and I can go into a very melancholy place. There's certain songs that I'll put on to be sad, but it is hard for me to get to tears, and I would do it alone, sometimes outside, but I did not try for very long because it felt so performative and dumb. I was just like, what am I doing?
Because when I picture it, I picture like you listening to like Bon Iver with like onions under your eyes, just like trying to conjure up something.
I would love to use that joke. Can I steal it?
And so I wanted to, like, I really like where you're getting at with the concept of just, you never knew that crying, for me, what I heard is that crying just didn't seem like a thing that was normal for you. It didn't really seem like an option. And then you were seeking, like, is this an option? Like, can I do this? And in that, your survey, you realize, I guess I can. So then why don't I try? And then you kind of go toward the end about having all of these new opportunities come up where you make the choice to cry now. I think that was a big thing for me was what I was hearing in this story is you didn't know it was a choice. And at the end, it became a choice for these 4 times. When something unjust happened, when something happened in a relationship, there was one more thing. And then when you were just in a random malaise of feelings at Target, and you're like, you know what? Right now, I choose to cry because I'm here. I'm in this moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. Practicing it did make me reflect on it because I wouldn't have thought about it before. Like, what are the things? And there are like specific things that were doing it to me. Time plus travel throughout, suddenly crying in public for no reason is the worst. I have some rants about how to deal with that when strangers are doing it. And I've perfected really good techniques for talking to people, strangers I see crying in Chicago. Yeah, does anybody have any thoughts that they want to say one way or the other? I might have some questions, but
you could play if you really want to put in the practicing part. You could play with doing that first, and then go into why you're practicing crying, like why you chose to do that. I just heard a big theme of choice and crying as a choice for you. but that was how it landed for me.
Yeah, there's another thing that you said that like sort of brought out to me, but I didn't say in this, is beyond choice. The other thing that like came to me is like, in all honesty, my world's just not sad. It's not legit sad. Like there's a lot, I don't have shit to cry. Like I'm pretty fucking lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. It like reminds me of the moment where I cried for joy for the first time. And like I was like, whoa, people do this? This is how people feel when they're really happy and they just cry?
It's funny to me though that there's this constant narrative that we don't want to cry. We want to live this life to where things are just so not hard that we don't cry. But the fact that you don't cry, that often makes people like, well, what the fuck's his deal? Like that it's terrifying that you could possibly be so okay. Maybe that doesn't come to mind. It's that you would have to be emotionless, not that just you're doing okay. Does that make sense? Like it's weird that that's the immediate headspace that we go to, is that
Right.
Yeah.
It sort of becomes a paradox. We think society says people can only cry twice in a lifetime, but also those people are monsters. That's not fair. Questions, do people feel strongly about, did anybody have feelings specific to the ending?
I like the ending. One thing I was gonna say is that there seem to be two halves to the story, and they seem to have very different like moods to them. But maybe that was just my perception. It definitely starts like very funny, and then or builds to being funny, and then it becomes very personal and more, I don't know, sadder or more emotional at least. So I don't know. I felt like I felt like maybe there was a better way to transition between the two halves or interweave them in some way. But I did like that ending line and that ending image. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that I was attempting to be alluding to the fact that there's some sort of continued irony of like maleness, that if you frame it as a fear of crying, then you can't do it, right? Because you're not allowed. Like my bigger thing is that I'm not allowed to be afraid of anything, and so definitely not tears.
Well, there's also the component of expressing that fear. You're allowed to be afraid, but you're certainly not allowed to express that fear. You're allowed to cry secretly and shamefully into your pillow at night, but never let anyone catch wind of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, these comments are helpful to me as I work on it. My final question, I think I am going to call an audible and say I'm not going to do a second version of this. But I do have a final question. Is what I'd like to do is sort of turn this into, and this is a tough question, which maybe nobody will have anything wrong, but I would like to turn this into like a 250, 500 word essay. And if you take a couple seconds, do you have any thoughts on that structure? Because it's 7 minutes. It's like way longer than that. Like, yeah. Does anybody have thoughts?
Dan, how long is a 250 to 500 word piece when you say it?
Yeah, for me, because I take lots of long pauses, 500 words is probably 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
So I gotta cut like 3-ish.
Good challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 250 and 500, there's a big gap there
Sure.
in terms of just like how many words. 250, it's like you have
Yeah, so-
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So going off of that, 250, I think then you would split it into maybe the 2 or 3 halves. 3's not a number.
What
of
would
halves.
you?
But
What
right?
would be non-negotiable to cut out? Like, what do
Absolutely
you want?
nothing is non-negotiable. So I'm thinking that for 250, if that's my shooting point, I would do just the party scene as 250, and then I could do, and probably I could get it under this, do 250 as a second essay with the Noah part, because I kind of feel like they could be encapsulated just on their own. Right? It's just interesting, the party scene. It's just interesting what Noah's experiment.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what do you want the essay to say? Like, what is the reader reading in the essay? Because there should be non-negotiables when you're writing a piece that short. Like, stuff you have to make sure are in there for you, not for me, but for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I want is to open up a conversation for people to be like, I agree with society or I don't agree with society. And I think both of those halves could have that ability. Like, that's what I want to engender in the audience. I want them to see it and be like, I have an opinion about this and I want to express it.
So if you're
I
trying
don't
to
know if that counts for you.
If you're trying to write an essay, I guess my question is kind of what's the prompt? Is like, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying now by that. Like,
Yeah, like come up with a good title for it.
yeah, not even a title, just, yeah. No, because I think, by the way, I think it was excellent. I feel like we dove right into what was like, into dissecting it. I thought it was really, I think it flowed really well. And I liked the naming the cereals and the walking to the, the cash register. And that really clicked for me. It's like what you guys said. That put me in it more than just listening to it kind of thing. But I liked I tried crying. The way you said it to me, it kind of made me laugh, which sounds fucked up. But like it sounded like I tried crying, like something like I tried weed, like like it sounded legitimately like it was something that you just don't know much about, like, and that I think that was a good way to portray it. But yeah, no, I think it's really good. It's just don't be too hard on yourself. I think you immediately, which that's pot to kettle, but the second you got done, you were like, I did this thing and I took this thing out of the middle and I wish I would have done it this way. When I think it flowed really well, where you practiced the crying and everything, I think that was a good spot to have it. It was almost in the middle, I feel like. But
yeah. Well, thank you for that note. Okay, so next we are going to transition, and Shweta today is going to explain how this next section works. We have our last storyteller, and it's going to be Susan if she's up for it. But first, Shweta's going to explain sort of the nifty thing that we do.
Sure. So going back to what Payton said earlier in today's episode, we connect through the stories that we share. And a lot of the times, it's really beautiful to hear how another person hears us, how another person sees us. And so for the next section, this will be a retelling of a story that we've heard today in someone else's perspective, how they heard it, how they took it in, and how they want to share it back.
All right.
Okay, so I'm on. So I'm gonna pick Payton's story and see if I can get it down. So back in high school, our high school, you know, we're kind of pretty good kids. So best thing we could do was like go bowling. So a big group of us went bowling. Most people were paired up, but usually I wasn't, and I wasn't this time. So then all of a sudden, you know, my best friend, of course, is the homecoming queen. She had to get up and go to the bathroom. As she gets up, her boyfriend makes a snide remark like, you know, it won't be long. She'll be right back. I was like, what do you mean? Well, you know, she doesn't do that. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, did you see her eat? She eats. Like, yeah, I know she's beautiful, but she eats. It's going to go through her. Dude, she does that. I don't even talk to me about that. Don't even talk to me about that. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Okay, dude, whatever. So then I was thinking, like, is society like telling us don't talk about stuff? Don't talk about real stuff. Like, you know, we're all supposed to be just cute little princesses walking around here or something. So it got a little bit ingrained in me. So kind of skip up to the point of the story where I'm actually doing laundry. Feeling pretty proud of myself because, you know, laundry is an actual task that's boring and I'm doing it. And so I'm carrying a basket of laundry and my mom looks up and she goes, hey, Payton, do you think maybe you're ADD? I'm just flabbergasted at this point because I'm just like, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm doing laundry. Like, how could I be ADD? I wouldn't be doing it. I'm doing it. Leave me alone. She's like, I'm like, you know what? The best I can give you is my sister. She thinks maybe I've got anxiety. I'll give you that. And I storm off, put the laundry away. So I started to think, I was just like, I'm home. College is just going so. I might be back for about a while. I'm not sure. And I started looking into this anxiety and this ADD, and there's WebMD. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. Like maybe I have it. I don't know. And so we started to think and talk to my mom some more. And she's like, I'm thinking you've got it. And I like, fine, we'll go get a test. So here I am in the office of the psychotherapist. This is his job. Figure it out. Do I have it? Don't I have it? I'm like, at this point, I'm back to I don't have it. I'm not having it. I'm in this office. It's like white walls and a desk. And it's just like, you know, hospital. And I'm like, focus. I'm going to focus in. I'm going to look straight at him. I'm going to make sure I'm not moving too much. And I'm answering his questions succinctly, just the ones he asked. And I'm not going to have ADD. So I get through the test and I think, and I've aced it. Like, I'm practically a genius. So I think. Or maybe he'll give me a job because I am not ADD. Of course, he puts down the test and he looks at me and he's like, you're ADD. Oh my gosh. This is just like my heart sank. I'm like, how is this on top of everything else I'm going through? I'm like, this is too much. That's how I'm thinking. He's like, and not only are you ADD, he's like, because it hasn't been treated that long, I think it kind of like morphed into that anxiety. And then still not getting treated, you're kind of morphing into depression. So it's kind of like you have all three at once. And I'm depressed. Like if I wasn't before I walked in here, now I am. So he's like telling me that, you know, I should probably be on meds and I need to have like some talk therapy and I probably should like take the semester off school. And I'm 19 and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. All my friends are going to be marching along through college, going on to their next place in life. I'm going to be stuck home on medicine, not even the cool kind, going to talk therapy. If I wasn't depressed before, I'm feeling pretty depressed now. But I think part of doing this is that you have to tell your stories and you have to be real and you have to own that people have things that they need to do and they need to take care of. And just on the side, I just want to tell you that, doing it and working through it, it does help. That's it.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Dan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have thoughts or comments and want to hang out with us in Discord, we will be hanging out in Discord for a little bit afterwards, and we'd love to see you there. That is the end of our show. We will be back next week, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
It was good seeing everybody. Bye.